Finlay James Murray McDougall scowled at the blank piece of paper on his desk. Sixth grade homework was dumb and hard. How did the Babylonians protect themselves in times of war? How was Finn supposed to know that? He sharpened all 14 pencils in his desk drawer and lined them up from shortest to tallest. That didn't help. Then he lined them up by alternating tall ones and short ones. That was better. It looked a bit like the sharpened wooden spikes of a fort wall. The Babylonians probably built those around their villages to protect themselves from marauding hordes of... Finn scratched his tousled mop of fair hair. He couldn't remember who did the marauding against the Babylonians. Was it the Greeks or the Hittites? Or maybe the Huns. Yes, it was probably the Huns. They marauded everybody. Finn opened his desk drawer to look for inspiration. In below some thumbtacks, a spare yo-yo string, a plastic spider, broken fortune cookies, rubber bands, his fake dog turd, some dried up Halloween candy, a glue stick, the penny whistle, his Hawaiian shell necklace, the sand dollar from Manzanita Beach, and the Chinese balloon that made a farting noise, Finn found a little bendy guy he had made out of pipe cleaners. It was curled around a half-chewed eraser. From the windowsill next to his bed, he selected one of his rock collection, a smooth, round, pinkish pebble, about the size of a golf ball. Those would have to do. He still had 11 math problems to do and his Latin vocabulary to memorise. He couldn't waste too much time on the Babylonians. Finn cleared some space on his desk a few feet away from the pencil fort. He unbent the pipe cleaner guy, propped him against the pink rock, and placed the eraser at his side. Now he was getting somewhere. The evil Hun, pretending to be a skinny shepherd in his fuzzy disguise, crept closer to the sleeping Babylonians. He was accompanied by his trusty eraser. No, it wouldn't be an eraser. He was accompanied by his trusty, giant, poisonous hunting toad. Yeah, that was better. The Hun moved slowly towards the fort. This would be too easy. He could hurl his giant pink bowling ball right through the gates of the fort. And if that didn't work, he would send in his trusty warp-skinned companion. In one gigantic leap, the humongous poisonous toad would jump over the fort wall and spray slimy goo on the sleeping Babylonians. A fluttering tap at his bedroom window brought Finn back to reality. A white piece of paper inside a plastic Ziploc bag hung suspended in the air on the other side of the glass. Finn pulled up his window and peered out. There was a small rusty pulley attached to the wall outside the window. 2 wires ran from this across the darkness to the neighbouring house 100 feet away. In the drizzle, Finn could barely see the girl cheerfully waving at him from her lighted bedroom window. Hadley Kobayashi had been Finn's neighbour, school classmate, and best friend ever since kindergarten. They had rigged up the note exchange pulley system long before their parents allowed them to use phones or instant messaging on the computer. They still kept the system going today. It was more secret than phones or instant messaging, and more special. Finn unclipped the plastic bag from the wire and extracted the note. "Hey Finn, I'm done with my Latin and history already. Ta-da! Did you know that in ancient Mesopotamia, if a white dog urinated on a man, hard times would seize the man. But if a red dog urinated on a man, That man would have happiness. It says so in the book. We need to tell our dads to stick close to Riley and avoid Churchill. I can't do number 6 or 9 or 11 on the math quiz. Can you? Hadley. P.S. Don't you just love the word urinate? It sounds so cool. P.P.S. Who is the tall whistling scarecrow who just arrived at your door? Is that your great Uncle Hugh? Finn decided that it was definitely time to panic. He still had all 3 assignments to complete. The Latin was hopeless, and his Babylonian essay still needed work. He hadn't included anything in there about urinating dogs. But maybe he could do the math problems. He was good at math. If he did numbers 6, 9 and 11 for Hadley, maybe she'd let him copy her answers for the rest. Finn could hear the commotion of Uncle Hugh's arrival. Riley, their golden retriever, was barking. Finn's mom was yelling at Riley, and Hugh's booming Scottish voice echoed up the stairs. It brought back memories. Although Finn's name was clearly Scottish, he was born in Seattle and had spent most of his life here. In fact, he had only been to Scotland once, and that was 5 years ago. But the best part of that vacation was the week he had spent with great Uncle Hugh in Tobermory on the island of Mull. Finn's mother had told him he was never to go near the boggy marsh at the bottom of Uncle Hugh's garden, but she had never defined near. I mean, how close to the bog was near? On the 3rd day, when Finn was practicing his juggling, one of his juggling balls somehow managed to land down near the bottom of the garden. There was nothing Finn could do except to move closer to the bog. An old weeping willow tree hung out from the edge of the bog like a drunken witch with knobbly fingers. Finn wondered if its branches would be strong enough to hold his weight if he climbed the tree. Before Finn could try to climb the tree, he caught something out of the corner of his eye. An ugly little creature was looking down at him from a high branch. As Finn moved closer, the creature stuck out his tongue and began spitting at him. Finn threw his juggling balls at the creature, but it just dodged, so his balls landed in the middle of the bog and began to sink. The creature laughed at him in an eerie, lonely wail, like the wind howling through an empty house. Then it climbed even farther out of reach and started spitting again. Finn rushed to find his mother and tell her all about the strange creature he had found. But instead of coming to help him, she just scolded Finn for going near the bog. She dragged him, kicking and bawling, back inside the house to find Finn's dad. David McDougall was sitting in the kitchen, talking to Uncle Hugh. "What's the problem, honey?" he said to his wife. "Your son is getting wilder by the day, David. I found him down by the bog." "You did not. I came to find you, Mom." "Be quiet, Finn. As I say, David, he is rampaging into all sorts of places where he has been told not to go, and now he's pretending he's seen a fairy." "I didn't say it was a fairy," Finn protested. Uncle Hugh held his hand up for peace.
"Tell me what it was you saw, Finn,"
he said. Finn recounted his story. Uncle Hugh became excited. He brought his face close to Finn's and locked eyes with him. His bushy eyebrows almost brushed Finn's face. The old man's eyes seemed to be made of a pale grey liquid. They danced like spitballs in a hot stove top, full of fire and mischief.
"What did it look like, this creature that you saw?"
he said. "Oh, don't encourage him, Hugh," Finn's dad laughed. "It was bigger than a guinea pig, but smaller than a cat. But it had hands and feet like a monkey, and brown scaly skin like a crocodile." Mrs. McDougall rolled her eyes, but Finn continued defiantly. "And it had bits of sticks and grass and heather on its head instead of hair." Uncle Hugh leaned forward in his chair and grasped Finn's hands in his own.
"I have a great eye for detail, young man,"
he said. "Hugh, really, he's making the whole thing up," said Mrs. McDougall.
"Oh, I don't believe so, Marjorie. I believe that Finn may have the gift.
He's just given you a pretty good description of Stinky the bog myrtle. She's often around at this time of year. All the grown-ups had laughed at Uncle Hugh's joke, but Finn remembered the wink that Uncle Hugh gave him when his parents weren't looking. A big wink from his left eye. It was like a secret between them. The wink said, "Don't listen to them, Finn. I believe you." Over the next several days, Great Uncle Hugh took Finn on some long walks. Hugh was always looking at rocks. He treated them with great respect. They went walking on the beach when the tide was out, looking for wee chucky stones, small, smooth, round white pebbles that Uncle Hugh collected in a little sack and brought home to make a path from his gate to the front door of his cottage. He had a routine. He would pick up a stone, inspect it carefully, and if it was the right kind, he would drop it into his sack. If it wasn't the right kind to go into the sack, he would toss it far out into the sea. Or, if it was smooth and flat enough, he would try skipping it over the surface of the water. Finn liked to count the number of skips it made before it sank. 7 or more skips was lucky, they both decided. Finn copied his Uncle Hugh, settling into a comfortable companionship. Finn's stone skipping improved. One day, after Finn had skipped a stone a good 10 times over the surface of the water, the old man grabbed his arm. "Did you not hear that one singing as it jumped across the water, Finn? I think that might have been a wee water wart that you didn't recognise. Never mind though, she'll come back into the beach when she's good and ready." He winked his left eye at Finn again. Ever since that holiday, Finn had wondered if Great Uncle Hugh was being serious with those winks. Maybe he was just teasing Finn, making fun of him the way grown-ups like to do. It was hard to tell. Even so, Finn had taken a keen interest in rocks ever since then. He had made a point of collecting one rock from every trip he had taken with his parents from then on. On his windowsill, he had an expanding collection, including a piece of granite from the shore in Aberdeen, a chunk of lava he got near Kilimanjaro in Africa, and a shiny black rock from a beach in Hawaii. The noise downstairs had subsided. His parents would be starting hours of boring grown-up conversation. Finn decided that his homework would need to wait. Suddenly, he really wanted to see Uncle Hugh again. Finn wanted to show him the rock collection and see what he thought of them. He wanted to get another one of those special winks.